your open source advocate, and I am back with another video. This week I wanted to talk about URL shorteners. So if you've ever used something like bit.ly, bit.ly, or Google, I think it was goo.gl, those things basically take a long URL that you have and will shorten it into something much smaller so that you can post that on things like Twitter, especially back when Twitter only had a 140 character limit. Just makes links a little bit smaller, and then it keeps a database of those links that it created and where they forward to. So when you click on that link, it goes to the site that you created the link from, looks in the database, says, oh yeah, that's where you want to go, and forwards you along to that URL. So these are really super useful tools, and you can self-host some of them as well. So one that I was asked specifically about is Kutt.it. So if you go to this page, you may get a certificate error. I went ahead and went through it when I got that. I think they've just let their certificate expire, but it comes up and you can see kind of what their demo site looks like here, and you can use this site, but you just never know how long it'll be up, or if they've let their certificate expire, if it will even function correctly. So that's one of those things to kind of keep in mind. But so right here I can just type in https://shownotes.opensourceisawesome.com. So this is a fairly long URL, and it takes up quite a few characters. It's not the longest one out there, but especially if I wanted to forward you to a specific one of my pages there. So my main page here with opensourceisawesome.com is already pretty long, but then when you click into these different things, so for instance this one, this is a really long URL. So I could take this URL and I can just copy it, and then I can go back to Kutt.it, and I can just paste that URL in there, and then I can just click on the little arrow button or hit enter. Again, it's got options for advanced options as well, if you have any. So if you want to use those, you have to get logged in, so it tells you that right off the bat. And then they've got some charts and things like that where you can keep track of short URLs, but the main function is to create a short URL. So if I click on this, it's going to go through, and here you go. So this is much shorter than what I just pasted in there, and then you can click this little button to copy it. And now I can just go paste this in, and I can move right through it, and it should forward me right to the site that I want to go to, which is this post. So this is what a URL shortener does. It just makes a really long URL into something really short that somebody can click and just move through the system to whatever it is they're trying to access. Before I get started today, I want to say thank you so much to my patrons over at Patreon. You guys supporting me and letting me know that you appreciate what I'm doing just really means so much to me, and it's hard for me to put into words, but I really truly appreciate that, and I just thank you so much. And I want to say thank you to the subscribers and everybody at YouTube who's watching my videos and liking my videos. I truly appreciate that. So if you haven't already done it, please subscribe, like, share this with your friends so they can come along on the journey with us, and we're going to do some really great stuff. I've got some great videos coming up. I'm working on some stuff for free IPA, which is kind of like Active Directory but free and open source. And my goal there is not to just show you an option for Active Directory, but to show you how to put a lot of the stuff together that we've been using, and in particular things that can use LDAP authentication, so you can really set up a single sign-on situation. I've had requests from folks to make things that are like Office Suite type software that's open source and self-hostable, and then things that might be for a university and so on and so forth. So I'm going to try to give you guys that information, and I'm going to try to make it in a way that is really easy for you to kind of take that information and take it and use it in your own situations. That's always my goal, of course, and I know things don't always go the way you want them to, but I'm going to do my best to make it that easy. So I hope you'll stick with me while I get that stuff ready. It's going to be a series of videos only because it's so much information. There's no way I could stack it into one video. You'd lose your mind. I would lose my mind. So I'm going to stack it into bits and pieces so that we can all go along one at a time, and you can kind of take your time and do these things as you have time. And I'm going to try to break it apart in pieces where I feel like this is something where I could do this much and then stop and come back to it and pick up where I left off pretty easily, because that's what I want for you guys, because I know you don't have all the time on earth either, and it really just, you know, it makes sense to do it that way. So I hope you'll be with me for that and enjoy it. And I've got lots more little tidbits like this one here, which is a nice bit.ly replacement. Thanks for the suggestion on this one. I really appreciate it. I love when you guys give me suggestions for things to go look at. I know sometimes it takes me a little bit of time to get to them and make the videos on them, but it's because I'm going out there and looking at them and I'm just getting a feel for them and I'm learning about them and I'm trying to figure out how do I do this in a way that will be useful for you. So give me time, be patient, and I'll try to get around to all the suggestions as I get a chance. But really, I appreciate that. Now let's get started on this install. Kutt.it is not super difficult to set up or install. There are some caveats that I want to talk about as we go through it, but really overall it's not terrible. So Kutt.it is the main page, but you actually want to go out to their GitHub page. So I'll open that in a new tab here. And you're just going to use Git to clone down the repository. You can just get the Docker Compose file and the environment files that they have here if you just want to try to pull those down, but it's just as easy to pull down the project. So I am already logged in to a server where I have it pulled down, but I'll show you exactly how to do it. So you type in git clone and then just put a space, and then from here up at the top of the repository you click on this little arrow, highlight this section or click on the copy button, and then go back to your terminal, make sure it copies when you do it, and then just Control Shift and V like Victor to paste it in, and there you go. Now when I hit enter, it's going to try to clone this down, but it's going to tell me that I've already got the folder, but when you hit enter it'll clone it down and create a folder called Kutt. And if I cd into Kutt, so inside the folder this is what you're going to see, and there's a few files here. If I just do ls, you can see there's a lot of stuff, but right here you can see there's a docker compose.yaml file, but you need to look a little bit deeper. So we're going to do ls-a, and that's going to show us that there's some hidden files in here. So you can see the ones with a dot in front of them now. These are what they call hidden files. And here I have this .env file. Well, this wasn't here by default, so if you've just downloaded this repository, you won't see this file. But instead you'll see this file that says docker env. So all I did was say cp.docker.env, and then I took that and I just copied it to .env like this. So I'll create .env1, and then I'll clear and I'll do ls-a again, and now you can see I've got this env1 file. So it's just a copy of the docker.env file. So this is an environment variable file that we're going to need in order to run Kutt.it. So let me just remove that env1 file, and I'll kind of show you what the actual env file looks like. If I type it correctly, it will go away. There we go. So now I'm just going to do nano.env. Okay, there's a lot to go through in this .env file. So the first thing is the port that it's going to run on, which is 3000. I did not change almost anything in here except for a few items, and I'll talk about those. So it says site name, so I put OSIA, open source is awesome. You can change this to whatever you want it to be, but if you put spaces, make sure to put it inside of quotes. Default domain, so I actually went and purchased this domain just for this little experiment, and I made a really short one, so osia.me is my domain. I own that domain. Sorry, I'm tapping on the mic. osia.me is my domain, and I own it. So as we move down, I changed this to 7, so it can put 7 characters after the osia.me. So you'll get some, for your short link, it'll look something like this, osia.me / ky2 or 324lg. So that would be 7 characters. So that's about what it would look like. So when you change that number, if you were to change it to 6, this is what it would look like, 5, 4, and so on. But as you change that down, you lose the amount of randomness and the number of URLs that you can create. So setting it out to 7 with the whole alphabet and numbers gives you quite a lot of URLs depending on how many you're planning on making short links for. So here I didn't really change anything. I just left it as Postgres. I did not change anything in these sections, so just be aware of that. I left this as localhost, and I left all of the information that they put as far as username and password for the DB. I didn't change the Redis host or port. So continuing down, disallow registration. So if you don't want to allow people to register, you can change this to true, and it won't allow them to register on your site. But if you want them to be able to register and create an account and stuff like that, you want to leave this as false so that it allows registration. Disallow anonymous links. So if you want to force them to register before they can create links, then you would change this to true. And then they would have to register before they can create links. Again, I just left everything at the default for this part. User limit per day, 50. So each user can basically create 50 links a day. If you want to change this, you can to 500. Let's just change that to 500. And then, so there's a few other settings here. So the non-user cooldown. So basically, you can set this to a time, and it basically makes them wait before they can create another link so that they don't just spam your site trying to create a whole bunch of short links. So setting 0 to disable. Otherwise, you can set it in minutes, and you could say if they're not logged in as a user, you know, how many minutes do they have to wait before they can create another set of links. I just left it on 0 for now. Maximum number of visits for each link to have detailed stats. So 5,000. I don't remember if I changed this. It might have been 500. I don't know. But it does keep statistics, so just set that to what you feel like, and you can always come change it and then restart the process. Custom domain, use HTTPS false. So you could say use HTTPS for the custom domains that they're doing. I just said leave it. I just left it alone. I didn't mess with it. So here you just need to enter a passphrase to set up your JWT, and it's use a long and secure key. So just use, you know, write something. It doesn't matter as long as you can come look at it later. It's fine. Just use upper and lower case. So and some numbers, and just mix it up. There you go. So that's a pretty long password. It's just a secret. It's nothing that I'm going to use that I'm aware of. So make it really strong. So here you set up admin emails. So for the emails that register, what emails will be set as admin users. So this is kind of where you do that. There's nothing in the user interface to set this, so you need to make sure you put it here. If it's just going to be you, put in one. If it's going to be you and other people, put them in like I did with two different emails with a comma in between them. And then if you're going to use Google Cloud API, you need to put in API key. I didn't do any of this stuff as far as Google Analytics or any of that stuff, so I just left it all blank. If you want to do that, you'll have to kind of go get your own keys and set everything up. And then finally, the email part. So if you want to allow people to register, you have to have email set up and working. So my email is through Mail-in-a-Box, which uses Start TLS, which is the newer form of encryption, and it runs on port 587. Unfortunately, Kutt.it does not support Start TLS, so it didn't work for me. You need something that supports SSL-based encryption, which is port 465. So I've put a little note here. This needs to be 465 and SSL, so 587 doesn't work. I tried it. It would not send the email no matter what I did, so this just isn't working as far as this goes, but I know that it's set up correctly. So this would normally be what you need. So once you do set up your email information though, you would put your email password here in this space so that you've got your email SMTP, your email host, which is your SMTP server basically. 465 should be here. This should be set to true. Now if you have an email server that'll send off of port 25 and you want to set this to false, it should work as well, but it's just bad practice these days. And then you need to put in the mail user. So if your username is not the full email address, just put in your username here. And then your mail from, this would be the email address. So in my case, they're the same because the username and the email are the same. And then finally, again, your password that logs you into your email or allows you to send email through SMTP is what you would put in this space right here. Then this final bit is just the email address that will receive submitted reports. So if there's reports and you want to email them to yourself, put in the email address that you want to receive those things. And then subject email to show on the app, or support email to show on the app. So I don't have a support email, so I didn't put anything. This is what you would type in here if you wanted to add it. So I'm just going to change this. I'm just going to set this and save it, and then we'll take a look at what it does when it runs. So, all right, once you've saved that file, so you use Control-O to save and then hit Enter to make sure it's got the .env name, and then Control-X to get out of Nano. When you get into the Docker Compose.yaml file, there's a few things that we need to cover here real quick. So this is the image that we want. That's great. You're really not going to change much. There's only a few things that we need to look at to change. So first is the ports. If you have port 3000 on your host already being used, you need to choose another port for it to run on. The left side is the port, on the left side of the colon, the right side is the container. You should really never mess with the container side of things unless you know what you're doing. If you don't really know what you're doing as far as that application, making changes to the actual application, you should never mess with anything on the right side of the colon. But on the left side, this is the host, and I know my host is already using 3000 for another application, so I'm going to change that to 3030. That's just something I have to do. If yours isn't using 3000, you can leave it alone. Just remember whatever port you put in, because we'll need that when we try to access the site. Next, this is the file that we just created a while ago called .env. If you changed the actual .docker.env file, you should put that here if you didn't create a .env file of your own. You need to put here whatever file has your environment variables in it that you want the system to use. So as we move down, this is going to be a Postgres. I didn't change this. The DB name, I think I put Kutt. Maybe it was there already. I don't remember. DB user, I think I changed from their default, or I know I did because this is my name. And then the DB password that you want, they have a default. I suggest you change that to something that's a little bit stronger than what they have. So make a strong password. And then down here, Redis is what it is. That's fine. Just leave that alone. Here with the Redis stuff, don't change anything. Just leave it all alone. And then down here on the Postgres side, you need to make this information match what you have up above. So you have a user and a DB name and a password. And down here you have a user and a DB name here and a password. Those need to match in both sections. So make sure that you make those match in both sections. And then as you keep coming down, don't change anything else. Just leave it all the same. And then once you're done, we'll get out of this file. We'll save it with Control-O, hit Enter, and then you can do Control-X to get out, and you're back at the terminal. So once you're back at the terminal, you can just type in docker-compose up. Now, what this does is it lets you see what happens as the application builds, and once you hit Control-C or you close the terminal, it's going to kill your application. So if you don't want that to happen, you need to do -D, which means run it as a daemon. So once it's up and running, keep it running in the background. So I'm going to let this come up and run. It's going to show you what's going to happen. It's going to pull down all of the stuff that it needs. It's going to pull down the images. It's going to extract them. It's going to get everything ready. And once it's got that stuff pulled down and extracted, it's going to try to make that Kutt system talk to the Redis database and the Redis database to the Postgres database. So everything kind of works together, you know, as three separate images and containers, just to make the system work properly. So we're going to go back here and we're going to go to our containers. And it says everything's running. So let's check and see if our site will load this time. Yeah, so we're getting our security warning. I'm going to go ahead and click Advanced because it's a self-signed certificate right now. Let's say accept the risk and secure connection failed. And I think, yeah, so it needs this to be set as an actual IP address. So now we get to our NGinX Proxy Manager because it wants to go to this site, not to the IP address. So again, that's why I say you need an actual domain name set up and ready to go and pointed at your server, regardless of how you're running it. So we're going to jump into NGinX Proxy Manager here. And I think I already have this entry set, so I'll have to go through and yeah, so I'm just going to delete it and start over so you guys can see what we do. Edit, there we go, delete, yes. So we'll just add it again here, and we'll go to add a host, and this is going to be osia.me. And I'm going to hit tab to make sure it gets a little chip, and then I'm going to put in my Docker 0 address because it's running on the same site, on the same server as my Docker install. So I'm going to open up my terminal again here, and I'm going to do ipaddr show and then docker 0, and that's going to show me my Docker address, and I can just copy this right here out of the terminal, and I can go back in here and I can just paste that in, and then I know this is running on 3030, and I'm going to put WebSocket support. I don't know that it needs WebSockets, but just in case, I'm just going to save that, and then let's click on it and see if it'll actually go. It does. So here's my osia.me. So we've got this web page here from earlier with a really long address there, and we'll go out here and we'll paste it in, and then I'll say here, generate me a short URL, and there you go. There's my short link. So if I copy that and again open another tab and paste, there we go. So Firefox, for whatever reason, loves to try to take me to the HTTPS side of things, and I don't really know why, but if you see that, check and make sure if it put an HTTPS up there, that may be why it's not working when you first do this like I did, because I don't have HTTPS really set up yet. So now I'm going to go back though. So I'm going to close these guys. And let me just close some of these down because there's just too many things open there. I'm going to go back to osia.me and I'm going to say edit. And I'm going to say I want an SSL certificate now. I'm going to request a new one. And I want to force SSL, and I agree to the terms, and I have my email address put in here. And I'm going to hit save. So it's going to go out, it's going to say, hey, I'd like to get an SSL certificate for this. Can I reach it by port 80? And if it goes away without any error message, it probably worked. So let me see if I can get to it with HTTPS now. I can. And then let's just create another one of those links for that same site. Copy it, and we'll paste it in there. And then let's click go. And then let's try this again. Copy it, and then let's open up another tab here, and let's just see. See, it gives HTTPS right away, so for me this makes sense to go ahead and put the SSL certificate on it, and there we go. So I've got a nice HTTPS redirect that gives me everything I want, and I've got my link shortener. Now what I want to show you is whenever I try to do sign up / login. Right now, if you try to do sign up, it's going to tell you, hey, you haven't entered anything. If you try to do login, same thing. So Brian at fixitdelrio.com. Now, if you remember, I set this email address to be an actual admin. So I'm just going to put in a password here for a long password, and I'm going to say sign up. It's going to show this. I'm going to tell it for now, don't save. But you notice it says an error occurred. This is where we run into the problem with my email stuff not working. So I've got my email entered, I've got everything set up again, but again, Mail in a Box uses port 587 for Start TLS. This doesn't really know how to navigate Start TLS right now. I hope that at some point they'll fix that, because that'd be great, because it's a much more secure way to have your SMTP server running and sending email. But for now they support port 465 SSL, but my Mail in a Box does not support that. Took a little bit of work, but I got it done so that I could show you guys what happens whenever you do this. So I did the sign-in process that you saw a while ago. Just click sign up, and it basically gives you this message when it's successful. So it says it sent me a message. So I'll go to my email and check it here. And there it is, verify your account. And you can see it has my little logo here, and it says click this to verify the account. So I'll click on it. Should bring me back around. And it says your account has been successfully verified, and we can just go here to log out, or we can go to settings, and there's probably not a ton of stuff here that we can do, but we'll look at it. So I want to make this just a little bit bigger on the screen for you guys, and I'll scroll up a little bit. So custom domain, you can kind of see what's going on here as far as what's happening. So it's point your domain a record to this, then add the domain via the form below. So I don't know how this works or what this site is. If we highlight that thing and copy it, let's go do that. We'll do a little NS lookup here and see. So I'm running this currently just in Docker Compose up without the -d, so I could see some log output to see what's going on from the site. So I'll just open up another terminal here, and I'll move it up and make the font bigger here, and we'll do an NS lookup of that. So it can't find that domain. Interesting. Okay. So I'm not sure exactly what it's trying to do there, but anyways, I guess if you want some custom domains, you can set up some other custom domains. You just need to point them at this particular site. This might be something from the Kutt.it people. There's an API, so if you want to generate an API key, you can do that as one of the administrators. You can, of course, change your password if you want to. You can change your email address as well if you want to. And then you can delete your account. So just a few settings. And these may be settings that any user can get to. This may not be specifically admin settings. If you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, tell your friends about it so they can come along on the journey with us, and I'll talk to you next time.